Hey, Mr. Thompson here. We're looking at United States History Standard 4, analyze the ideological, military, social, and diplomatic aspects of the American Revolution. More specifically, we'll look at Part B of that standard, which explain the reason for and significance of the French alliance and other foreign assistance, including the diplomacy of Benjamin Franklin and John Adams. Americans faced the more prepared, better financed, and better equipped British military in the American Revolution. In order for Americans to supplement their war effort, diplomats worked in Europe to get aid from other countries. Benjamin Franklin and John Adams, who had been key figures in the development of the Patriot cause in the colonies, spent the majority of the American Revolution in Europe working to get assistance from France, Spain, and the Netherlands. The French ultimately provided critical military and financial assistance, while Spain and the Netherlands mainly provided financial assistance to the American cause. Comparing the amount of resources held by the British versus held by the colonies at the time the Declaration of Independence was written shows why Benjamin Franklin and John Adams worked so hard to secure that French alliance and foreign help during the Revolutionary War. At the time of the American Revolution, the population of the 13 colonies was about 2.5 million, of which 500,000 of those people were slaves, while Great Britain's population was closer to 8 million. In addition to this smaller pool to draw soldiers from, not all colonists supported the Patriot cause. The Loyalists made up about a third of the colonial population. Another huge disadvantage that the American forces faced was that the British Army was made up of professional soldiers that were far better equipped and much better trained than the newly created Continental Army. Financially, the Continental Congress struggled to acquire the resources and equip the Continental Army to carry out the war because the newly created government lacked the money to pay for the costs. They're like, hey, we just started. We don't have any money. None left. We need it. Under the rules of the Articles of Confederation, the Continental Congress did not have the power to tax. Requests for voluntary payments from the states to the Continental Congress was their only way to make money. The states never fully provided the funds needed to finance the war. Given all these obstacles, it was super important that the Continental Congress secure alliances and financial assistance from other countries. France emerged as the Americans' greatest ally during the Revolutionary War. Britain had become the dominant world power after successfully concluding the French and Indian War in 1763. Britain's traditional enemies, France, Spain, and the Netherlands, looked for a way to regain the advantage in world trade. As Britain's American colonies began rebelling, French government officials representing their king, Louis XVI, began negotiating with the Americans. Thomas Jefferson and Benjamin Franklin were key players in negotiating the Franco-American Treaty in 1778. The alliance essentially turned the tide of the war against Great Britain. French naval attacks in the Caribbean and against British holdings in India forced the Royal Navy to weaken its blockade along the United States eastern seaboard. The French also supplied large quantities of muskets, cannons, shot, and powder to Washington's forces. Spain and the Netherlands were also Britain's rivals, so they contributed large financial assistance to the American cause. So Spain and the Netherlands are like, we hate Britain, so here's money. Here's money, America. Take Britain down. It was after the colonists won the Battle of Saratoga, New York in 1777 that France was willing to openly support the Americans and join the Revolutionary War opposed to their rival, Great Britain. So France was like, we see you, America. We see you after that Battle of Saratoga. The naval support that came from the French was critical in winning the British surrender at the Battle of Yorktown in 1781. Benjamin Franklin had been working in France trying to secure that alliance since the winter of 1776. He spent much of his time interacting with the upper classes and highly educated elements of society to gain access to French leadership. Franklin became very popular in France and was known for his folksy appearance, a lot of times wearing a fur cap instead of a fashionable wig, common among the upper classes. They're like, who's that guy wearing that fur cap? I want to hang out with that guy. Unless you're against that sort of thing, like fur caps. John Adams was also an American ambassador working in Europe, trying to acquire that much needed support for the revolutionary cause. Adams spent some time in France with Benjamin Franklin at about the time the formal alliance was achieved. It was in the Netherlands that Adams had his greatest diplomatic impact. In April of 1782, when the Treaty of Paris was being negotiated, Adams secured the formal recognition of the United States and acquired a large loan from the Dutch. While in Europe, Franklin and Adams were representatives of the United States, along with John Jay and Henry Lawrence, in negotiating the Treaty of Paris 1783 that settled the Revolutionary War. The diplomatic successes of both Benjamin Franklin and John Adams helped to secure the very important French military alliance and financial assistance from various European sources. The United States, given the significant limitations they faced in fighting the more powerful and more prepared British force, relied heavily on the support from Britain's own European rivals. That finishes Standard 4 Part B, explaining the reason for and significance of the French alliance and foreign assistance, including the diplomacy of Benjamin Franklin and John Adams.